PCCD and OVS want to better inform and educate the field with the OVS Consolidated Standards. Pennsylvania has long been considered a leader when it comes to these operational standards that are designed to maintain quality services and programming delivered by skilled advocates and staff. The standards are meant to be a guide to VSPs for best practices and excellent service delivery, provide minimum expectation for VSPs, and ensure uniformity of service delivery across the Commonwealth. The standards provide the minimum expectations of victim service delivery and ensure professionalism of the victim's services field. PCCD and OVS has launched a series of recordings that will walk program staff through our standards. The OVS newsletter will announce new recordings as they are available. In this recording, we will highlight Section D of the Program Administration Standard, Personnel Management, which was adopted by the Victims Services Advisory Committee, VSAC, in November 2007 and updated in November 2021. Please note that there are 6 sections to the Program Administration Standard, which are outlined in the next slide. Recordings have been prepared for each section. Staff may listen to any or all recordings in relation to program administration. Programs who have PCCD as their oversight entity will need to have policies in place to address the sections in this standard. Following this training, the program contact assigned to your grant can help answer individual questions about this standard in relation to your project. Victim Services Program Administration shall interpret and implement policies into tasks and practices that staff are expected to fulfill. There are 6 aspects of program administration: accessibility, fiscal management, governance of nonprofit organizations, personnel management, program planning and evaluation, record keeping. For the purpose of this training, we will review Section D, Personnel Management, which includes information on numerous pieces that together promote equality to all employees and allow for effective personnel management to any agency supported by PCCD oversight. The VSP shall have written personnel and volunteer policies in compliance with all statutory and regulatory requirements and requirements of these standards. All victim services programs employees shall be governed by personnel policies adopted by the respective hiring authority. A hiring authority refers to an individual or entity within an organization that has the power to make hiring decisions. The VSP shall have a written policy regarding the ongoing supervision of each program employee. This includes conducting written annual performance evaluations for all employees and volunteers, including supervisors and program administrators. Executive directors should have oversight by the board of directors. VSP employees shall be selected from the field of eligible applicants. Candidates shall be hired according to the personnel policies of the organization. The VSP shall have a written policy to periodically evaluate compensation and employee benefits. Personnel records for paid employees shall include documentation, the date of hire, the employee's salary history, the employee's receipt of the manual or personnel policy information. Personnel files shall also include a signed job description, which includes a general description of the position, who the employee reports to and/or supervises, a list of specific responsibilities, expectations, and functions. All VSPs shall ensure that all personnel records contain the following documentation upon hire: a Pennsylvania State Police criminal background check pursuant to Title 18 PACS 91 relating to criminal history record information for all employees, volunteers who have direct contact with clients. Tax forms, I-9 employment eligibility verification, resume and/or application, training information. Personnel records shall also include signed employee evaluations. This would include probationary and annual evaluations as appropriate. These evaluations shall be signed by both the employee and supervisor. Any disciplinary action and/or grievance proceedings, date of employee separation, signed statement attesting that the employee has received and read the Victim Services Code of Ethics. DSP's policies shall also include written policies and procedures for making determination of suitability before certain individuals may interact with participating minors. Pennsylvania's Child Protective Services Law and federal conditions suitability to work with minors. Written policies and procedures shall include the process by which the agency ensures that determination of suitability to interact with participating minors is assessed for any position funded in whole or in part with federal and state funds. For additional information, please visit PA's Department DHS website at dhs.pa.gov/keepkidssafe to access most frequently asked questions or facts. The link is also provided in PCCD's Consolidated Victims Services Standard. Interaction with a minor does include physical contact, supervision, oral and written communication, and the transmission of images and sound, and may be in person or by electronic or similar means. Interaction does not include brief contact that is both unexpected by the subrecipient and unintentional on the part of the covered individual, such as might occur when a postal carrier delivers mail to an administrative office. Personally accompanied contact, that is, infrequent or occasional contact, for example, by someone who comes to make a presentation in the presence of an accompanying adult pursuant to written policies and procedures of the subrecipient that are designed to ensure that throughout the contact, an appropriate adult who has been determined to be suitable pursuant to this condition will closely and personally accompany and remain continuously within view or earshot of the covered individual. If an employee or volunteer is required to meet the suitability to work with minors clause, then the following clearances are required at the time of hire and then every 5 years. Drew Shoden, National Sex Offender Public Website, Child Abuse Clearances, Pennsylvania's Megan Law website or applicable state sex offender registry, Pennsylvania State Police, Criminal History Clearance, FBI fingerprint-based criminal history search. If an employee or volunteer is not required to meet the suitability to work with minors policy, they will still be required to obtain a criminal background check through the Pennsylvania State Police. A determination of suitability to interact with a minor is prohibited if 1. Withholds consent to a criminal history search required by this condition, or 2. Knowingly makes or made a false statement that affects or is intended to affect any search required by this condition is listed as a registered sex offender on the Drew Shoden National Sex Offender public website. Or lastly, to knowledge of the subrecipient has been convicted with a felony or misdemeanor of certain sexual crimes. Please see the Personnel Management section of the standard for more details. PCCD has created a Determination of Suitability tracking form. This form shall include any grant-funded staff or volunteer that is determined to work and/or interact with minors. PCCD will request this tracking form as part of the monitoring process. For VSPs that determine the suitability to work with minors is not applicable to one or more of their staff, they shall use this form instead to document the PSP background check was completed. All columns shall be completed. As we continue navigating through the personnel management section of the standard, all programs are also required to ensure that each position shall have a written job description that contains essential functions and qualifications. The BSP shall have policy on how job descriptions are created, revised, and approved. Each employee or volunteer shall receive a copy of their job description and shall have an opportunity to review it with their supervisor prior to beginning work and when revisions are made. Job announcements are prepared, posted, and advertised in locations in designated areas likely to reach a diverse pool of potential candidates. All job announcements shall contain the necessary equal opportunity employment provision. When a VSP uses volunteers, it shall have a written volunteer policy that addresses recruitment, selection, screening, training, confidentiality, work rules, supervision, evaluations, grievance procedures, and dismissal. The VSP shall have a written policy to assist employees who are experiencing vicarious trauma, disclose victimization, and are requesting assistance. As with all OBS standards, we encourage victim service programs to strive for excellence. The Victim Services Program shall strive to advance the professionalism of its staff, including the provision of staff development and training programs, salaries, benefits, and other supports appropriate to the professional workforce. The supervisor or administrator should regularly demonstrate the transference of knowledge acquired from ongoing training, education opportunities, and innovative field practices back into the workplace. Please email or call the program staff contact assigned to your grant with any questions. Thank you.